Hello and welcome. This is Mousegunner, and we're going to have another look at medieval engineers. This time, we're going to be talking about sieging fortifications and different types of fortifications that you can use. So, first off, we have a pretty basic and generic catapult that we're going to attempt hitting these walls with. And there are three different sections of walls. I have the first section here. I just made this little pathway to make it a little more interesting, which you can't really see in because I closed it off, but essentially it is just a normal wall like this, and then building it off, I just did like that, and then in the very top on the last layer, I did an archway just like this. So that's pretty much this middle part's construction. Now for this part on the right, what we did is we did a normal block of thickness on either side of a very similar structure. So you've got one block thickness here, then you have your arch in the middle and your normal wall construction like that, and then another layer of blocks. Now, this construction is more or less the same idea, rather than just do a straight wall, we have the sloped wall that goes up, and then we have a normal thickness wall. If we go over here, we have a normal thickness wall. We have a normal thickness wall on either side here. So that's pretty much the construction, and you can see in here kind of have what we have. So we're going to test out these different structures and how they hold up to the different little siege devices we have. Most of these, the two that we're going to show, are pretty basic, and then we have kind of a alternative as well. So we're going to start off with the catapult, and let me see if I can get the yeah, okay. I have everything set up for the catapult, so let's get launching here. So we just hook up the hook to our little spool here and crank her up. And I will point out the stability of the game is not all that great at the moment. As you can see, it juddering around there as I've wound it as tight as it will go. And it will do that for a little while until it settles down. Let's kind of try and bump our catapult back into position. And there, it's finally settled down. So let's grab our stone. Now you have the two different sizes of stones, but from what I've found, ranging wise, this stone seems to work. It's a little tricky to get it in the cup, but it looks like we got it on the first try. Also, I will point out that the accuracy of this catapult is not all that great. Sometimes it will be dead on to where I want it to shoot, and sometimes it will go a little short or a little long. So let's go ahead and fire it as is. And it looks like it came in right on target. A little high, but more or less right on target. And we see how, the one thickness wall, how that does. Essentially, we were able to breach the outer wall, but we weren't able to breach anywhere on the interior of that. So let's go ahead and try and re-aim our catapult here and get it aiming at the other set of wall. So just angle it over. Oop. And I just broke the crap out of it. Oh, that's lovely. Oh, I don't even know how I did that. Okay, that's lovely. I guess I'm going to have to reload here in a second. Early access. Alright, now we have the catapult angled more towards the other wall. Unfortunately, because I had to reload the world because I didn't want to have to build this thing all over again. The previous structure doesn't have any damage anymore. But let's go ahead and wind the catapult back up. See how it responds to this different structure here. Alright. And get our little catapult ball out here. And this is always the trickiest part, getting the catapult ball to go into the cup, which seems like I'm doing a pretty good job this time around. Alright, it looks like we've got it more or less lined up. Whether or not it'll get the range, we'll have to see. Looks like it's a little short. So what we'll do is we'll kind of push this. Ooh. Alright, well, let's see how that does. Usually I need this little bit of angle to get the ball down, but we'll see how it works at this angle. And as I said, the accuracy of these catapults is not all that great, at least this design. Alright, let's see how our aim is. Looks like we're aiming a little bit too far to the left there. So let's just tap it over. And then we get our catapult ball. Wait until it calms down a little bit. There we go. Let's try and get it back in the cup. Whoop. Okay. Settle down. Alright, whatever. Let's see how it does. It looks like it's going to go long. Oh no, it hit perfect. So we hit about, I would say, a little bit lower than we hit before, but as we can see with the more thickness wall, not nearly the same kind of damage because we have a little bit more thick of a wall. And this kind of demonstrates the point that with a catapult, even at what I would consider pretty short range, I mean, if that was a real fortification, you could argue that we're pretty in pretty realistic archery range if they had bows and arrows to attack us. And we're that close, and yet that's all the damage we can do. Let's hit it one more time, see if we can do a little bit more damage. And then we'll try the sloped wall and see how it fares to that. So let's get it down. There we go. And get our ball out. And we'll say that's about good. There we go. Right in there. And let's see how we shoot. A little to the left, a little low. Pretty decent damage though, but again, we only did a little bit of surface damage to that first block. And as you can see, accuracy is not all that good. I mean, the catapult itself is going to bounce around a little bit. Now, I can put brakes on, and I do have brakes on the back here where I can lock these in. But I've noticed quite a lot of glitchiness with the brakes at the moment. If you lock them in, sometimes the catapult will do a backflip and just disintegrate. So you got to be careful. So let's see what we have as an alternative to the catapult. We have this, which, if you've seen one of my earlier videos, it was actually, I think, the second video I posted on my channel, you saw an example of a battering ram, which was a very simple construction, and it was pretty effective. Now let's see how this device does. So let's go wheel it on up to our wall. We didn't get to shoot the catapult at the sloped wall. I just am now realizing. So let's try and push the catapult over in that direction, and hopefully we don't get any disintegration of the catapult. Just slowly push it on over. Alright, it's not behaving exactly how I'd like it to behave. Just push it along here. Almost got it in line. That looks about right. I just push it back a little bit. Alright, that's not quite as far. That's a little further than I wanted to push it back, but it probably will be alright. So, let's try our sloped wall and see how it fares to catapult damage. And this is a lot different than you have that kind of character tool, which allows you to simulate a catapult throw, but from my opinion, that is not the best measure of how effective a catapult is, because it seems to be a lot more powerful than what you'd get out of a catapult usually. Alright, so now that we're lined up, let's go ahead and let it rip. Looks a little low, but we did hit. And again, we notice a bit of fracturing, a bit of cracking, but I would say it probably fared better than the other wall did. And one thing I've noticed with the sloped walls is repeated hits in the same spot have less and less effectiveness. So if we can get a shot in the same place, which I highly doubt we will be able to, but we'll try for that. Okay. Get our catapult ball out. See if we can load this thing up. Oh, it was a matter of time before I missed one. Now we're going to be missing them all the time here. It would help if this arm would stop freaking out on me. Oh, that one was perfect, except the arm was freaking out. Alright, come on. There we go. It only took, what, 5 tries there? Alright, let's see if we can hit the same spot. I doubt we will, but let's go for it. A little too far to the left, and we actually ended up hitting the wrong wall. But as we can see, there's only cracking here, whereas this actually bashed through. So the sloped wall did pretty well. So now let's see our other device here, which we actually risked breaking. Alright, so let's get it relatively close. About this device, you do have to get rather close to get it to do what we want it to do. And then we're going to spawn in another catapult ball. Put it right there in our little cup. And we're going to bring back this arm. And we'll bring it back. Okay. And now we're going to attach a rope to the ball. And if you can guess what we're going to do here, we're essentially going to use this like a flail or kind of a, what's the term that I want to use? Wrecking ball. So let's go ahead and release this. And as we see, it came in and bashed the wall pretty good. Now if you remember the battering ram video that I made earlier, the battering ram was completely and totally destroyed when it struck the wall. So here we got a really good strike. It bashed through the wall, did impressive amounts of damage, but it's intact. I mean, we've got a little bit of debris on here, but if we do the clearing of debris in a very small radius, because I don't want to mess up other parts of our wall. Okay, let's get really close to this so we can get rid of it. There we go. It's pretty much fine and intact. So let's try it out on the other walls. So if we come in here and move this on over to the other wall, we can try it out on this wall. This is actually doing a little bit better than it did in other tests I've done, but sometimes with the kind of the glitchiness of the torsion spring and other elements, you can't always get the same results sometimes. Ooh, that's a little too close. Alright, let's back that off a little bit, because I don't want the arm to smack into the wall, because that's not what we're going for. Okay, we're pretty much set up on the wall. So let's try our flail device one more time on this wall. Okay, we're not quite in our cup. Let's see if we can nudge it a little bit and get it on our cup. Not that it particularly matters, but let's do things to just be a little neat here. And let's wind our... The other thing is, I was putting on the brakes in my previous demonstrations. In this case, I don't have the brakes on, I don't think. Or do I? Kind of hard to tell. No, it looks like they're off. Which may be all the difference. Alright, so let's attach our rope again. And with this construction, the length of the arm that you use is a big factor, and how far away the cup is a big factor, because it determines how long the rope is, and also how much of swinging force you have. But let's go ahead and cut the rope, and bam, we hit the wall. It did a pretty good damage. I'd say it did better damage than our catapult ball, as this here and here is a comparison. As we can see, it affected many more blocks, and if we come up here, we can actually see that it did a bit of cracking over here. So pretty effective, but still it's not going to get through the wall, and if we come over, we can actually see inside here and see if it did any cracking on the interior here, which was roughly in this area. I don't see any cracks here, so we would have to hit multiple times. Let's go ahead and do that and see if we can breach the structure. So without doing a whole lot other than maybe pushing it up a little bit so that we are a little bit closer. Alright, there we are. Let's go ahead and do the same thing that we did before, which is, and to see how many times we have to strike this to breach. So let's wind it back up. Okay, and the animation won't stop. There we go. Okay, and let's put our ball in the cup. And one more attachment here. And this is a very, very simple device, really. I mean, all you have to do is just build off this little area to contain the ball so it doesn't roll off on you, and get it enough distance so it gives it a nice length of rope. And otherwise, it's more or less the same overall device as what we had for the catapult. So let's go ahead and cut our rope and see how this does. Alright, so it struck again. And this is kind of demonstrating to me a concept that I've kind of already seen, is once you hit an area, when it's cracked like this, hitting it repeated times oftentimes has very limited effectiveness. So if you don't get through with the first strike, oftentimes hitting the same spot won't do very much for you, which is one of the reasons why the sloped construction is so strong, because not only does it absorb the impact a little bit better, but you keep hitting it and it doesn't do any further damage. So let's try this out on the sloped block, which we might not even be able to do because of the fact that it's sloped. We might not be able to get the flail device close enough to be able to hit it, but we'll try. One thing though is because it's sloped, we might actually be able to push the flail right up that slope. So we'll try and hit a part of the wall that hasn't been hit yet, and it's quite possible we'll destroy our device in doing this if we miss. That's kind of the problem with the flail. If you miss the target, there's a possibility the rock will swing around and hit the device and destroy it. And a lot of what we're trying to do here is build a device that's repeatable, that you can use over and over again and doesn't break on you. Okay, so I think we've got it pretty well lined up. We're going to roll it right on up to the base of the wall, which is about, I would say, just like so. Let it roll back a little bit. Oh, not a little too far. Let's give it a little bit of a shove. Alright. Keeps rolling back on us. There we go. That's probably as close as we're going to get it with the way the slope is. So let's see if we can even hit this wall. That's one thing that I'm curious to see, because I haven't tried this device out on a sloped wall like this. Alright, so we've got it in position. Let's get our ball. Alright, that's in place. There and there. Alright, that's attached. Now let's hope we hit our target. Let's swing it around. Nope, it didn't hit. Luckily, it looks like the way that I built this device is that it doesn't hit itself. So the length of the rope is perfect. One problem though that we do have, and let's get rid of that completely, is that the fact that the machine kind of hop skipped back, which I think is part of the reason why we didn't hit. So I do have brakes on this thing. Let's see what happens when we employ them. Oop, that's a little bit too much. Let's try and stop it rolling back. Okay. Still rolling back a little bit more than I would like it to. Okay, it looks like we're locked in right there. We're pretty close to the wall. Now let's try and use our brakes. Hopefully they don't glitch out on us and cause the thing to backflip in the air and disintegrate. Okay, so we've got the locks and the brakes locked in place. Hopefully they will hold the thing in place so that it doesn't jump back like that. And we'll get this thing going one more time and see if we can even hit the sloped wall. Unfortunately, it looks like with its bouncing around, it's moving a little bit. There we go. We got it right up to the wall. Okay. Now we'll put our block here. Alright, and we're almost ready to go. So just tie the rope and let her go. Okay, it looks like it worked this time, but unfortunately it just didn't have enough oomph. It looks like, to me, with this flail, you want it to hit kind of at the top of its swing, and it kind of got to the top of the swing and then it kind of went crazy and like came at a weird angle, and I don't think it hit quite with a lot of strength, but it looks like we didn't move very much because of the brakes. So let's try and see if we can do that again. Okay, and unfortunately it looks like we are stuck in that animation. Alright, I got it to stop doing the animation. Okay. And let's try this one more time. And maybe with a little longer rope, this would work a little bit better. Maybe if we did another cup, we could try and get a longer rope on this. So let's swing it again. And again, it swung at a weird angle and hit, but it didn't do a whole lot of damage. Probably, definitely worse than the catapult did. So this may be a real weakness to this device, but let's see if we can construct this thing so it has another cup for us. So something like, oh, and this is where we have to take the brakes off, because when you're building like this, sometimes it just catapults itself into the air. So you have to be careful. I have to take the brakes off, make sure it doesn't do that. And let's go back to what we were doing, which was making another cup. I don't really remember the dimensions that I used, but I think this is probably close to what we had. And let's do that, and we have another cup. So let's see what happens when we have a cup that's a little further back. Maybe it gives us a longer rope, and hopefully it doesn't destroy itself. Okay. Oh, we don't have our brakes locked in place, so it is bouncing around a little bit. So let's get our cart up there and lock the brakes in. Okay, we've got the brakes locked in place, and let's try our little bit further away stone. Oop, we gotta get the rock, there we go, and place that in the cup. And let's see how this does. It looks like it moved on us, unfortunately, so let's push it on up. There we go. Oh no. Okay, that didn't do what I wanted it to. And this is kind of the nature of these rocks that the ropes, is that they tend to resize themselves, which I think is kind of the problem we're having here. But let's try that one more time, and let's cut our rope, and it pretty much did more or less the same thing. Maybe it was a little bit more of a smooth swing, but now that we've damaged this part of the castle, pretty much repeated strikes in the same spot are not doing a whole lot. So unfortunately, this thing doesn't seem to be all that effective on a sloped castle wall. Let's see if we can push it up. I don't think it's going to stay so that we can actually crank it up. So let's see. No, it's just going to slide down. So that doesn't really work. But it was worth a try. So sloped fortifications seem to be kind of the way to go. And this is kind of a demonstration of how I would possibly build an outer wall. The only problem with this is it's very material heavy. It costs quite a lot of materials to get the wall thickness that you need, as well as the slope. But this lower level of the wall is going to be extremely difficult to breach. You might be able to breach this upper level because it's just a very simple, thickness of a wall. I mean, you could do this thickness of wall much similar to the way that this thickness of wall is. It's just questionable on whether or not it would take the weight. So that's one thing that you would kind of have to take into account. But, you build this level of wall so that somebody just can't walk up the slope and then jump over and be in the castle. So that, you're stuck here. You can't get through here. And that's pretty much, in my opinion, the way you'd have to build this. And these are probably the strongest fortifications, in my opinion, that you can build. But as I said, very material heavy. It looks like, to me, the best compromise, if you don't want to go that route, is to building one thickness walls, then the normal thickness walls, this thickness wall here, and then another layer where it's one thickness wall. And then this way, it's very difficult to breach. Even if they breach that outer part, which it looks like it takes quite a bit to do, then they have another layer of this one thickness block to bust through. So it does take quite a lot of doing to breach such a wall. Whereas opposed to just the normal thickness wall, very, very simple to breach. It takes almost, well, this was not a catapult strike, but this is right here a catapult strike. So as you can see, a catapult strike does break through this wall pretty easily. So this is not really the best material to make your outer walls of. So I hope you guys enjoyed this look at some siege engines and some ways of building fortifications. I did have one other siege engine idea, but it was wholly impractical, and maybe it would be a good way of making another video on that particular device, just as a fun thing to do. But as I said, it's wholly impractical device to build at the moment. But in any case, I hope you guys have enjoyed this video. This is Mouse Gunner signing out.